When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that reminds you that UFC champion means Ultimate Fighting Championship champion.
It's true. Oh my god,
it's a real ATM machine situation up here.
Yeah. The redundancy school of redundancy. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today we're going to talk about the UFC. Yeah,
I'm excited about this one. This is like, if there was anything that would be up our alley to talk about, just the stereotypes and the eroticism and the gay and the anti-gay,
I mean, I figure if anybody wants an MMA fighter up their alley, it's you. So,
boy, and one in particular, we'll get to it.
Okay, but first, feedback.
No, I'm still reflecting on
sorry.
this dude. Give me a moment. Okay, yeah. I wanted to read some feedback that we got on Discord.
Yeah.
So, Hey, Mike and Kyle and fucking Dan, not to give feedback on people's feedback. I fucking Dan had nothing to do with this. So that's in parentheses. But just finished listening to the latest episode about decluttering. Great episode like most. I am a person on the autism spectrum and generally not a very tidy person, though I am an organized person. You spoke about an Airbnb that had everything labeled and called the guy crazy and weird. I'm not saying that the person was autistic, but it could be. But it could also be other types of mental disabilities. This I found offensive and quite unexpected from you two, especially as you are such advocates of mental health with your sponsors. I've attached a picture of my workspace supply closet. I've organized and labeled everything so things can be easily found and quickly handed out to employees. This helps me and my coworkers work efficient. But it is my autism that has helped me give structure to my workplace. I'm not mad or angry with you, just surprised at your response. I don't expect an apology, but please try to do an episode on having autism and being gay, LGBTI+, and what challenges that comes from. And that is from Osfast on Discord.
Great.
And I'm glad for that feedback, and I agree that would be a really interesting episode to do. And
I also I have a lot of feelings about the feedback, which I sort of haven't really talked to you about much. So here we go, live on the air.
Sure.
One thing I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with and have no problems confronting and saying is I apologize for using the word insane to talk about this person, because I listened back through that after we got the feedback and I was like, did I really say that?
Oh.
Yeah, I called him crazy and used the word insane. And those are, I think two words that I would like to eliminate from my vocabulary. I can't promise that I'll be 100% at it, because old habits die hard. But I apologize for using those words. I think that they're stigmatizing to people with mental health issues and aren't really necessary or clever. And so I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. I absolutely. There are certain things where I know with my mental health issues that I know if someone comments on them or doesn't understand, it's really frustrating. So there are other areas of mental health that I don't understand. And I can absolutely understand and the frustration around something that is representative of a manifestation of your mental health thing and being either made fun of or looked down on or joked about. I get that sucks. So definitely not something I want to do.
Yeah. And that person should not own Airbnbs. Okay.
Disagree. Wait, you can't dig into that perspective? Really?
It is a subpar experience for the renter.
I disagree. Okay. That's okay. That seems like a perfect Airbnb for you. You like things to be organized, a label of knowing exactly where to put something. It's perfect. That's your entire thing is being very prescriptivist, and you order and organize and direct. Here's the instructions to do exactly what to do.
I'm with you on all of that. Sure. Yeah. I think, and I have ADHD, diagnosed, medicated for it. There are systems and structures like that save my fucking life. If they were not in place, I would not get shit done. They have to be there for me to even engage and do it. I think that we already talked about it. The experience at that place, I just was like riddled with anxiety about like, oh fuck, there's like 8 people in this place, and what are the chances that all of this shit is going to end up right in the very meticulously labeled exact place that it's supposed to go? And I had anxiety for all of us. I had anxiety for the owner. I just like it had the effect of me just like not wanting to touch anything and just like walk from room to room and.
It's like me in a bathhouse. I would rephrase what you're saying then of that kind of Airbnb is not a right one for you because it gave you all of those feelings of anxiety and difference.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you for the feedback.
Here's the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
News the first?
Oh, sure.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Let's go. So Florida's doing it again. The House Bill 1557, which is known as the quote Parental Rights in Education Bill, has passed their House.
Are we talking trans or critical race theory? Those are the 2 options that I see coming.
It prevents schools from talking about LGBT plus people.
Oh.
Quote, in primary grade levels or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. LGBT plus advocates are calling it the Don't Say Gay bill, which allows parents to bring legal action against schools if Florida teachers discuss gender identity and sexuality or even encourage classroom discussion about LGBT plus people.
So, okay, there's a new quarter that is featuring a black woman poet.
Yeah.
Like, what? Well, you can't say her name? Like, well, I don't know. Like, there's a person now on the quarter. It's big news. It's important. It's historic.
Yeah. You might make my white kid feel bad about himself. We can't have that.
I don't know. It's Maya Angelou. Yeah. But.
Yep. It's going to the House floor. It passed the House Education and Employment Committee on Thursday along party lines, and now it goes to the House floor for a vote.
This is okay. Along party lines, we like, sometimes people, either religion or politics, are like, oh, like you don't make fun of like my group. Not everyone in religion, in politics, or whatever is. There are LGBT people like Republicans, and I'm Republican, and like just because we have differently, blah 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 blah. It passed along party lines. There's one party, the Republican Party, that is actively working to damage and destroy us. I'm totally fine attacking the Republican Party.
Yeah,
I'm fine joking about it. I'm fine talking about how shitty they are, and I don't care if you belong to them because you are part of an institution that is ruining, like making it really hard to be LGBT.
Well, and Justin Buttigieg, the husband of our transportation secretary, Pete, said on Twitter, quote, "This will kill kids, Ron DeSantis," who's the governor of Florida. "You are purposely making your state a harder place for LGBTQ kids to survive in. In a national survey at Trevor Project, 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide last year, and now they can't talk to their teachers." It's... The Republican Party is doing that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So the Republican Representative Joe Harding, who introduced the bill, says the legislation is about, quote, defending the most awesome responsibility a person can have, being a parent. I am terrified by and fucking enraged by the idea that any old willy-nilly parent gets to decide what their kid can and can't have access to because they're their kid. Fuck you. Fuck you and your parental horse shit. Like, it is not society's job to help you filter things from your kid's brain because you are afraid of ideas. Like,
it's the reason like public or school is mandated. Like, or is that everywhere? Or in Texas, like you are legally required to, like, your kid is legally required to be in school.
Same in Washington.
Okay, I didn't know that. And that, like, the entire purpose of that is so you learn shit and can, like, learn and grow, and like it's this exact information that you may not be getting at home, and that they're trying to prevent us elsewhere. But like that's the entire point of the reason we require that, to require education and then say, but only what the parent wants you to learn. It's like homeschool your kid. Like if you don't want them to get the benefits of why we require education in the first place, like
yeah. Which is the liberal version. If you don't like it, move. But I still stand by it. Fuck it.
Well, like, you don't get to decide that school should be no critical race theory, and by that I just mean American history. Like, no gay people. Like, you want your version of education taught to your kids. So your version of education. Do you remember geometry? Go home and teach them your own fucking geometry. Like, you're going to be bad at teaching your kid because you don't know everything, and that's the entire point of public education. Yep.
Boy, we got worked up, Kyle. You almost spilled your drink.
I almost knocked my drink over.
We'll keep watching this one for sure. I think just because it's so dangerous and has the potential, like a lot of legislation, like it gets tried in one place, and then as soon as it's successful, it spreads like fucking herpes all over the place. So we'll see what happens. News the second.
Yeah.
Okay. News the second. Louis Anderson's dead. He is a comedian, and you know who he is, or you like.
He did that cartoon TV show Louie. Is that the name of it? Which I remember growing up.
Yeah,
very funny.
And he hosted Family Feud.
Yeah.
He died Friday at a hospital in Las Vegas. And reading
I'm just curious why we care. Okay,
great. Well, so The Advocate has an article about him, and I was like, well, I wonder why.
Yeah.
And so I started reading that, and the first paragraph, not a great start. Advocate. Louis Anderson, a comedian much loved by LGBTQ plus audiences as well as others, has died of cancer at age 68. I'm not bought in yet. Why we care?
Okay, yeah.
Like it feels like the obituary version of gay people are saying.
Well, but watch out, because this is what happened with Betty White. That's like pretty almost dead on to what they said, like what all the news outlets said when Betty White died. So like, okay.
Okay, so was always very quiet about his private life. He married his high school sweetheart in 1985, but the marriage lasted less than a month.
What's the gender of the person he married?
Female.
Okay.
Has never publicly said he was gay, but in the 1990s he was blackmailed by a man named Richard Gordon, who said Anderson propositioned him for sex at a Vegas casino in 1993. And Anderson paid him $100,000 to keep quiet, but he came back with a demand for $250,000 more. So that's when Louis Anderson went to the police and arrested Gordon in 2000 in an undercover sting operation. He was convicted and imprisoned for extortion and bribery. A fellow comic, Tom Rhodes, once accused Anderson of groping him at a comedy club in the 80s, and he made the accusation part of his stand-up act. And then Louis Anderson talked about it in a 2018 interview with the Tampa Bay Times. Quote, "I really regret that Tom felt put upon and felt uncomfortable. I had no idea. I was a big flirt back then, and so that's a possibility that happened, and I regret that. I regret that he would be put in that position, and I'm truly sorry for it." And there's a whole bunch more stuff, but apparently I had no idea Louis Anderson has all of these like gay rumors / probably gay things about him.
Yeah. Huh. No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Now you do.
Yeah. Trying to figure out how much I care.
Oh.
Still.
Oh.
That sucks. If, we don't know it's true because, the idea is we believe whatever people tell us about their orientation. If someone hasn't told you they're gay, they might not be, or, but like, the idea that someone might be closeted their whole life and that sucks.
Yeah, for sure. And I think especially generationally, right? Like there's more, I think it's more prevalent among the over 65 crowd or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, I did not know this. Did you know that he won an Emmy in 2016
for Baskets
for playing a woman? I had no idea.
I think is Baskets the show My Favorite Murder Karen Kilgariff writes for? We'll find out. I'm pretty sure she writes on that show.
Fucking Dan's on assignment. When he won his Emmy, he said, quote, "I haven't always been a very good man, but I play one hell of a woman." This is for my mother, Ora Zella Anderson, who I stole every nuance, shameful look, cruel look, loving look, and passive-aggressive line from. I'm pretty sure my mom orchestrated this from the great beyond.
It's interesting because a cis dude playing a woman, again, has different vibes if you're actually queer or not. Like,
yeah. It also, like, why is it okay for comedy? Right?
Also, was he playing a trans woman or was he playing a cis woman? Like, there's a lot. There's probably a lot to that. Yeah, Karen Kilgariff is a writer on, or was. I guess the show might be over. Yes, the show's over, but Karen Kilgariff was a writer on it.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Well, anyway, Louis Anderson may or may not have been on our team, but now he's in the dugout.
Does anyone call it that? Is that a thing? Okay. I mean, it makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
News the last.
Please.
Adam Rippon is married.
Okay, I didn't know. He reposted like one of those, like shitty ads that like promote like which celebrity is super fat now, and it like they Photoshop some. Anyway, there's a thing that says Adam Rippon. She's married now or something like that.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
retweeted that. I was like so happy for her.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's been hilarious. Olympic figure skater Adam Rippon revealed that he secretly tied the knot with his Finnish fiance on New Year's Eve. And then later finished on his fiance. Yeah, he did. Jussi-Pekka J.P. Kajala? Is his name, or Kahala? I don't know. I don't speak Finnish. They started dating in 2018 after meeting each other on Tinder. So they're the ones. They didn't. No, that's what you tell other people. They met on Grindr. Right. They got engaged in February after the pandemic forced them apart for almost a year. And I love this so much. His Instagram announcement of it said, quote, "Surprise, we are married. One afternoon, JP and I looked at each other and said the very classic romantic phrase of, let's just go do it now." So we did. And then after they got married. He said, this was my other favorite quote about the whole thing. He said a good portion of the wedding was just paperwork followed by a ceremony in an office. And he said that the ceremony was in an office, quote, "filled with decorations that looked like something you would get from the dollar store if you knew that you had a wedding in 5 minutes." Just being so cunty. I love it. And also, like, kind of talk about stereotypes. You think of Adam Rippon, like, my stereotype of what he would be into would be a big, lavish, fancy wedding and be the gay, like, sequins everywhere. So many sequins. He plans an entrance that involves, like, it's on ice and he skates in, or I don't know, like, and he's wearing a bridal gown. Like, there's a thing I picture for him that is very much a stereotype based on kind of him being more feminine. Like, I still have some of these things in spite of talking about this for so long. Yeah. I still have some of those ideas, and that's completely different than what I would have expected. And so I like that part of it. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And like, his husband's hot. Yeah. Which, I would watch them fuck. Sure. That's it. Great. That's the news. Speaking of people who, I don't want to say that I'll watch you fuck, because that's very personal and a decision that should come to consensually between multiple parties. But the following, we have Patreon members to talk about this week. Yay! If any of you signed up because you wanted to be the only one, you didn't. You have failed. You didn't do it, and that's on you. Thank you to Alexander Moss. Oh, I think I nailed that one. Yeah. Unlike the following name, which is Andy Boneline. Baneline, I think, is how we decided that that's supposed to be said. I'm going to say Bonelin. Okay. That sounds vaguely sexual. Joe. Just Joe? Just Joe. No E. And J-O. J-O. Yeah.
How did I not even? Okay. And David Marquez.
Oh, hey, girl, hey.
Marquez? Do you pronounce the S at the end of a QUE as if he's French? David Marquis. Thank you to all of our marquee sponsors. If you want bonus episodes, content, and just support us, go to patreon.com/gayishpodcast.
And everybody, just so you know, whether you were a new patron or not, all of our patrons at all support levels are invited to our quarterly Zoom happy hour. They're super fun. We have them on a totally normal and understandable cadence of the first Wednesday of the second month of each quarter. Which means that the next one is indeed next week. So you've again, any level of support, you are invited, and
except like spiritual and mental support, you have to be paying us some dollar amount.
That's true.
Active money supporting patron members, but yes, they are a lot of fun. We hang out, chat. We talk about us a lot. That's always fun for me.
Yeah.
But no, it's a blast. So
Wednesday, February 2nd. At 6 p.m. Pacific time is the next quarterly Patreon Zoom call.
Buy yourself an early Valentine's Day gift and get your us.
Get your us on.
Our long-running Patreon tagline, get your us on. You want to talk about UFC?
Let's talk about the UFC. So I don't know if people know this kind of shit. I'm going to talk about the history of UFC, Kyle.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay, great. UFC stands for Ultimate Fighting Championship.
As we learned.
But also, a distinction needs to be made between UFC and MMA.
Yeah.
And MMA stands for Mixed Martial Arts. And UFC is just one example of MMA. So all UFC fighters are MMA, but not all MMA is UFC.
Yeah. If you're playing football, the NFL is a place to do it. The UFC is a place to do MMA.
Yes, exactly. Let's start, though, real quick with, have you ever watched it? Do you follow it?
I don't follow it at all. I don't care. I think it's barbaric and horrifying. And I'm too erect when I watch it.
In what other ways are you like John McCain?
He didn't like MMA?
We're going to get to that in a little bit.
Really? Wow. Yeah, he now going to talk about John McCain. I don't watch it. There are some sports that I'll watch football or something and I'll get into it and care, or soccer, tennis. There are a bunch of sports this. I think I would watch and be very uncomfortable by both. I think it's horrifying and ridiculous that people do this, and also it's kind of sexual, and I would be uncomfortable watching that around a bunch of people that are not there at all for the sexualness.
Yeah. Well, when I was reading through the rules and the moves and everything, I was like, oh, everything says submission hold, and Kyle is going to be into that.
I have a segment about this later.
Okay,
maybe if we get there. What do you watch it? Do you care?
No and no.
That was easy.
I mean, if it's on, I will find myself watching it because it's like a fucking train wreck. How can you not get sucked into these two people are beating the shit out of each other and liking it? I guess I don't know. It's just I can't not watch.
I very much have to just. Okay, I believe people should be able to do what they want with their bodies, and and everyone's consenting. I think it's different than NFL, where they are intentionally making shit tons of money. I think off of and not caring about people's health or safety. There's a different vibe and different reasons I don't like that. And so many people, especially growing up in Texas, are pressured to, that's what you do as a dude. That's how you learn teams. So I have different feelings about that I hate. I don't like the NFL or football. This feels different in that I don't think anyone is you have to, growing up, you must be an MMA fighter, small, little Johnny at 7. I don't think that's the vibe it gives off, and people clearly just choose to do it because they want to. So I guess I support it.
Yeah. I guess I support it. Okay, so more about MMA.
Cool.
people have been creatively beating the shit out of each other for centuries, Kyle.
That is part of it. Is like, it is human nature, I think, in a weird, not my human nature, but is human nature to just like, what if we beat the shit out of each other
and see what happens? So in ancient China, there was a combat sport called Lei Tai, which is a no-holds-barred mixed combat sport. It combined Chinese martial arts, boxing, and wrestling. Similarly, in ancient Greece, there was a sport called pankration, which is pretty similar to modern MMA in a lot of ways. So it was wrestling and boxing at the same time, and like basically had no rules. And it was first featured in the 33rd Olympiad in 648 BC. Everything was allowed with the exception of biting and gouging, which were banned. The fighters were called pancratiasts.
That sounds like a delicious, like, French, like, at a patisserie. Like, you're like, I would like one pancratia.
Yeah, I prefer mine with chocolate. They fought until someone could not continue or signaled submission by raising their index finger. And there were no rounds. And according to E. Norman Gardner, quote, no branch of athletics was more popular than the pankration. And then the Chinese and the Greeks aren't the only two. There's like all kinds of MMA from all over the place. This is that's a sculpture at the Uffizi of the Pancratium. And
wow, look at the look at that body.
Yeah,
they're like a stone carving of just the most, like when you carve it out of stone, I guess you can put all the muscles everywhere.
Yeah,
so and that's what they've done.
Yeah, and then they naked.
Yeah,
they naked and wrestling. Yeah. I remember seeing this statue. It was very awkward because I was with my wife at the time.
Hey, honey, I have no feelings about this. Let's continue moving.
So, yeah, I mean, MMA and stuff like it has been around for a fucking bajillion years. But UFC itself, which is the purpose of today's episode, it started in 1993. So it's relatively new in the grand scheme of things. It was founded by business executive Art Davey and Brazilian martial artist Rorion Gracie. And the first one, which they're numbered, UFC 1, happened.
Like the individual fights?
The individual fights, yeah.
Wow.
Like not each individual fight, but each individual event. Each evening of fights gets a number. Yeah, so UFC number 1 was in 1993 at the McNichols Sports Arena in Denver. Do you remember when MMA and UFC started to pop up in like our culture?
Do I remember it? No.
I mean, in 93 you were still like pretty young, I guess. Like,
yeah,
I remember pretty strongly, like all of a sudden having conversations on the playground about like, can Taekwondo beat Kung Fu? And that is very much part of the early branding, early marketing of UFC. They said, even in one of their ads, they said, quote, can a wrestler beat a boxer? So at the very beginning, the purpose was to figure out which martial art was the best one. And
that's some good marketing there. That's some good positioning.
Yeah, for sure. And it had minimal rules. There were no weight classes, and it was pretty violent and
beat the shit out of each other. See what happens.
Beat the shit out of each other. And because there were no weight classes, there were also these like massive size differences. Like there was an example of a bout that there was a 400-pound difference between the two people fighting.
Man, I'm gonna be. That's so hot. Okay. I love size differences, but like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So UFC bouts take place in the Octagon, which UFC owns the rights to octagons now, I guess.
Wow, like, sorry, stop signs. There's a new octagon in town.
Exactly. I don't know. How do you patent a shape? Or what? Like, this is horseshit.
We should draw like the most sides that's ever been drawn and just patent it to have it. What's the gayest shape?
Oh, I'm gonna guess like kind of a wavy S.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
But the octagon was like they took a long time to arrive at that being their thing. So because UFC didn't, MMA didn't have this like unifying, here are the rules, structure type of world. When UFC was founding, all these dudes were getting together talking about like, well, what should it look like? Because there's no right answer. They wanted it to look different than a boxing ring or a wrestling mat. They wanted something that was going to be iconic and stand out. And some ideas and suggestions when they were figuring this out included a traditional roped ring surrounded by netting, a moat with alligators.
What? Are you fucking... I mean, I guess if we're blue skying this and just, everything's, let's...
A raised platform surrounded by razor wire fence.
Jesus Christ.
Electric fence. Men in togas and netting that could be lowered from the ceiling by a pulley. Eventually, they designed an arena with 8 sides surrounded by chain link fence, which is the trademarked octagon.
And like that is big enough that like even though I don't care about follow anything like the octagon, I know about that.
Right.
Like I previously knew and had heard that word.
Yep, absolutely. Early on, they used the tagline, "There are no rules." And but they did have some rules. Biting was banned, eye gouging was banned, and they did not allow hair pulling, headbutting, groin strikes, or fish hooking. You know what fish hooking is? You're fisting the air. That's not what fish hooking is.
Oh, no. Oh, like you grab your mouth.
Fingers
like,
in mouth and pulling, yeah.
Man, all the fun things. Right. This is sounding less gay now that you talk about it. Okay.
In 1996, Senator John McCain saw a tape of the first UFC events and immediately found it, quote, abhorrent. He led a campaign to ban the UFC.
I'm sorry, war hero John McCain?
He disapproved of the violence of this.
There's some maybe that's why he died, so he didn't have to explain the like to me these are very much in the same camp. Like I'm being serious, like war and like UFC to me are in the same camp of dudes trying to be dudes and big dicking each other and like in a way that's like you don't know how to just like talk and work things out. Like I don't know, there's something gross and masculine and like there's a lot to that. I guess I shouldn't like stereotypically masculine, aggressive. That I just think it's gross.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he called it human cockfighting and sent letters to the governor.
I'm back in. Okay, God, John McCain.
Thanks, Republican Senator John McCain. He sent letters to the governors of all 50 states asking them to ban the event, and 36 did. So 36 states banned it. New York banned it the day before a UFC event, so they had to emergency relocate it to Alabama because, of course, they didn't.
Yeah. We got alligators right here if you need them too.
Yep. So the UFC then was like, oh, fuck, we got to do something about this. And they started working with state athletic commissions. They were redesigning their rules by adding some. They added weight classes. They made gloves mandatory for UFC 14. Kicks to the head of a downed opponent became banned in UFC 15.
Jesus. I like this idea of like the number one rule is there are no rules. Number 2, don't fish hook people, please. Number 3, these will all be scheduled at night times, and please attend 30 minutes advance to get ready.
Yep. Fight Club is also like sort of the same like grotesque violence, but also time frame, right? Like
the
90s were real big on beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
In UFC 21, they added 5-minute rounds, and that is sort of viewed as when it became a sport instead of just a spectacle. So by April of 2000, states started rolling back the bans on UFC or MMA.
How do you feel about the bans, about banning this? Do you agree or disagree? Should we be banning this because it's crazy and it's harmful to people? Should we not ban because, I don't know. Yeah.
It's a good question. I think I agree with the concept, in at least philosophically, of like bodily autonomy. If you all want to beat the shit out of each other, okay, go for it. Where it becomes problematic for me is when you're being paid to be there, and there is an oversight to like a corporate overlord that I think makes the question of consent a little more blurry. And so I think an argument could be made of jurisdictions saying like, we don't want that here and ban it, and they're within their rights to do that. Would I have banned it? I don't know. There's also like, we have more important shit to do, but I don't know. What do you think? How do you?
I like came in here like having gotten to this place, and I've thought about this before too, because it's a good example of I don't agree with this and think this is horrifying. Also, think people should be able to do what they do. I think honestly, my complaint is not about the individuals doing the thing. It is the corporate structure of this. That's what makes me nervous. The possibility to take advantage of someone for this. Like, I think you have a similar thing of sex work. Like, great, sex work is work. Do it. It should be completely legal and safe. But then porn studios, okay, like that's fine. Also, do they have the right rules to make sure it's not coercive, to make sure people are being safe, that they're, so maybe I support the individuals doing it. I worry about the laws that I think should guide it are more about the corporate structure to make sure, like, how do we make sure this is consensual, that the people fighting are making the money from it, that they are benefiting from it. Like,
they are not. Porn studios and the Octagon are alike in how exploitative they are, in how much they're making in profits versus how much they're paying the people that are actually doing it.
I think it's college football that just recently allowed for college, it's like the likeness or whatever, to like start making money off of your own personal likeness, because like that is a very exploitative, like the NCAA, like they take advantage. And in the past, I think there were good intentions or ideas behind that led to like these, the schools and the athletic directors and departments and companies that show these the games, like they make a shit ton of money, and the actual kids, the college kids that are adults, that are doing, like, actually playing, are not the ones financially benefiting from their skill. And that's different now. But
there was a map going around of the highest paid public employee in every state, and it's color coded, and like most states it was like the athletic director of whatever the biggest school is. Ours was Washington State University. The highest paid public employee was. That
has to be the case in Texas.
I would assume so. Let's see. So I thought this was really interesting. So at some point, the guys who started the whole thing sold the brand to another group of the Fertitas are their names. But Lorenzo Fertitta once said to Fighters Only magazine, quote, "I had my attorneys tell me that I was crazy because I wasn't buying anything. I was paying $2 million and they were saying, 'What are you getting?' And I said, 'What you don't understand is I'm getting the most valuable thing that I could possibly have, which is those 3 letters. UFC. That is what's going to make this thing work. Everybody knows that brand. Whether they like it or they don't like it, they react to it.'" I think that's fucking brilliant. Yeah.
Like brands inherently, like there's an entire like legal and marketing like thing of like the name in and of itself, the brand, take all the assets away or whatever. There's a dollar value assigned to the brand because it is any brand. Yeah. Unfortunately for Gayish, it's right around $7.50.
Exactly.
I mean, dollars and cents. Yeah.
Like pesos or something. So let's see. I'll fast forward. There was an Ultimate Fighter reality show on Spike, which of course it was on Spike, that the straightest channel that's ever straight dutyest channel that's ever existed. They started
and then but moved to a different network eventually. Why do I know that? Yes, part of my research.
Okay, great.
Cool.
They bought a whole bunch of other fighting franchises, one of which was called Pride Fighting, which I like. They bought a whole bunch, but the one that sticks out is Pride Fighting, because I'm like, oh, is this like MMA for queer folks or something? Yeah. No, it was a Japanese outfit that I think they just don't use the word pride the same way that we do.
The idea of pride fighting not being something gay is very funny to me.
Yeah, exactly. They added women in 2012, and
women got to fight for every right imaginable, including the right to beat the shit out of each other. Like, God, they have to fight for every single thing, including the right to fight. Jesus.
Strikeforce bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey was the first female UFC champion, the first Olympic medalist with a UFC title, and the first woman to defend a UFC title. She would successfully defend her title 6 times over a grand total of 1,074 days before she was defeated by Holly Holm in 2015 at UFC 193.
And Ronda Rousey is, like, I would say the most popular UFC fighter. Like, I don't know that I could name. I wouldn't have pulled that out of my ass, but like. Unlike many things, I would not pull. I could not pull that. No, but I don't know that I can name any others, or any others are like, oh yeah, I know, I recognize that.
There's that guy Shamrock.
Don't know what you're talking about.
And then there's that McGregor guy.
Oh.
Yeah. But you're right. Like, they're like names that sail out of UFC seem few and far between, and so it's basically, if you've heard of them at all, that's the pinnacle of fame.
Yeah.
And then I just have a bunch of stuff that's happened in UFC history that's gay or gayish.
Oh.
They started working with a Las Vegas queer center and GLAAD to promote HIV awareness in 2012.
What's the tie-in there?
The tie-in there is because UFC and MMA have associations with blood sport and having blood be a big thing, just like in boxing, HIV and serosorting, we didn't have PrEP. Like, there's a lot of fluids happening. we need to have HIV health be part of the conversation about the sport.
Well, I would hope also, like, the education of, like, you're not going to bleed on someone and now they're suddenly, like, at risk of HIV. Like,
right.
Like, there's an education part that I think, especially during the AIDS crisis, like, people just didn't understand how it worked, and they were like, oh, they're like, this person has AIDS and they bled and they, like, it got in the pool. Now I'm going to catch it. Right. So everyone has to get out, like.
Greg Louganis and all of that. Yeah. They had their first trans female fighter in 2013. So that seems early. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. In 2014, there was a UFC fighter here in the United States that made a splash when, during his weigh-in, he pulled his pants down and was wearing bright pink underwear that said "Legalize Gay" on the back. He lost that that match. Let's see. There's a lot of transphobia that happens. Like, every trans woman that has been in UFC has suffered from all of the shit that you would think would happen, including a lot of cis dudes that are competing in the dude side of the sport, talking about how unfair they think it is and blah, blah, blah. Okay, the last two things. There are many lesbians in UFC, 0 gays. There have been 0 gays that have been at the level of UFC. Now, there have been some that have, like, talked about it afterwards. There are some that have reached, like, minor league status or whatever. But at least as of in 2021, anyway, there were 600 male fighters compared to 107 women. But there were no open homosexuals, and at least according to this source, you're making a face that says you're going to tell me otherwise.
No. I was looking at, like, MMA and UFC. I had to, like, pay particular attention. Our episode is about UFC, which I'm like, I'm glad we're talking about that. So I have to look back at, like, no, I do not have contrary. I will tell you about an MMA fighter.
Yeah,
but
yeah, there is a lesbian couple that are both competing in UFC.
Oh, in the same weight class?
Not in the same weight class.
I don't know how you survive beating the shit out of your, like, wife.
Yeah. I guess I'm done. Oh, Mark Diaci is a UFC fighter who is straight and has kids, but posed for an edition of the Gay Times in 2017, and is a advocate for us, an ally or whatever. But
you said every gay man's favorite thing, which is, I guess I'm done.
I guess I'm done.
I love when I hear that phrase. I wrote down, I didn't have a thing for it, but like Liz Carmouche in 2012 was the first openly gay UFC fighter.
Okay, that makes sense. And the answer to your question for sure is different weight classes, but
yeah, great.
Amanda Nunes is her name. She's the current UFC bantamweight and featherweight champion and is openly gay, and she's in a relationship with UFC fighter Nina Ansaroff, who is ranked number 5 in the strawweight division. They got engaged in 2018 and became the first same-sex couple to compete in the UFC. And they had a baby in 2020 and named her Reagan Ann Nunes.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, I would not want to piss those lesbians off. That's for goddamn sure.
They're playing football players that beat the shit out of their wives, but that's not legal.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Not consensually.
Okay, I talked a lot.
Cool. I'm going to talk.
Do it
now.
Tell me things.
I want to tell you, I grabbed some quotes from articles about the gay or homoerotic nature of UFC.
Yeah.
And I want to read through them and discuss. I think I need to do this now, potentially take the wind out of our sails on the UFC jokes, but like have a serious conversation about like, is it okay? Or like the jokes about how gay it is or how homoerotic it is or all that shit. Like, is that okay? Is ultimately like where we're going to get to, but like, we'll see.
I forgot to talk about the dude that when he would knock out his opponents, he would air hump them. And
I was like about to say hot then I'd be like, oh wait, there's some weird rapey vibes to that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I don't have that. He was not one of my quotes. From a 2012 Extra article by Jeremy Feist, quote, I mean, all it is a bunch of hot, rough trade spooning each other. Trade spooning. That doesn't make sense to me.
Hot, rough trade spooning?
Yeah.
Sign me up.
What's that mean? Hot trade spooning?
Rough trade spooning.
Hot, rough trade spooning?
Spooning.
What does rough trade mean?
Isn't that just like, I should look this up.
I'm going to cut all this. This is not interesting, but I don't understand what that quote, my own quote means.
Rough trade is a slang term for a masculine working class man who has sex with men. So rough trade is like blue collar, greasy, like.
I had no idea that was a phrase.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, all it is a bunch of hot, rough trade spooning each other and rolling around on the ground, sweaty and shirtless, their top bodies straining against each other. Excuse me a minute. I'll be in my bunk. Which that's fairly representative of like, you know, when gay people talk about it, like the jokes we make that I've made that, you know, whatever. Like, so it's like, another quote, well, I should really like it. You had two nearly naked hot men rolling around on top of one another, trying to dominate each other. And just in case you don't know, that's gay porn with a different ending.
Yeah.
That is a quote that was taken during a debate in New York about whether to legalize MMA.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's the information you said helped inform some of the things that I read. Wow. Yeah. Synergy. Gay synergy.
Great.
Which I think is just called synergy. That was said by Daniel O'Donnell, Rosie O'Donnell's openly gay brother and New York Assembly member. At least he was at the time. Had no idea. There's a lot of information.
Was he pro or anti UFC MMA?
I don't know what he actually said. I didn't read about the debate side because I didn't think I cared about that. But then you mentioned it. I don't know what his
because Rosie O'Donnell's gay legislator brother, a gay saying don't like let's ban this sport because it's too much like gay porn. The gay using the gay to stop.
Rosie O'Donnell apparently is an MMA, like she loves MMA.
Okay. Lesbians, man.
Lesbians. So this gay porn with a different ending, I guess made a thing, or like there are like a lot of rounds like of that comment that I got that and several of the forthcoming quotes from an article, 2016 Vice article by Sarah Kerchak. She is bisexual, and side note, wow, this episode is all connecting. She's autistic, and she wrote a memoir called, quote, I overcame my autism, and all I got with this was this lousy anxiety disorder.
Okay.
A memoir. So just plug that. She said about this controversy, quote, wrapping an ostensibly tolerant stance in your own potential anxiety about sexuality and adding a winking joke on the end is no longer progressive or particularly helpful. And it does a disservice to a sport populated and enjoyed by as many smart and decent people as mixed martial arts can be.
Mm.
So that's the like counterpoint that, well, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like that's basically just saying, hey, knock it off. It's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if you're gay at all, and I'll speak for gay men, like if you're gay at all, here's two shirtless hot dudes like touching each other. That's going to, like, I'm going to have sexy feelings about that. And I'm not sorry. That's just how I'm wired. Yeah. And so I think that, like, if there's a condemnation of sexualizing what's happening, get over it. Yeah. Because it's going to happen. Yeah. Or the sport's going to go away. Right? Like
wait, do you believe that?
Yeah.
Do you think gays prop up UFC?
No, but I think that the gays that are watching UFC are, what I'm saying inarticulately is that, like, sexy feelings about MMA will go away when the sport does.
Oh, like this will be a yes, and like in the article she references, like, as long as there has been these kind of, like you described, like centuries of MMA style fighting, there has been homoerotic, like, people have described, I forget this article, like people have described it as homoerotic. Like that is just comes hand in hand with this.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel?
Well, okay, but wait, no, I want to keep going at you like an MMA fighter.
You got your finger out,
humping you while you're down. I don't know.
Don't gouge me with that. That's against the rules.
I will fish hook your butt though.
Ooh,
it's like, how does an MMA fighter like finger someone? It's like a fish hook to the ass. God, I want to get fucked by a UFC fighter. Mike.
Yes, Kyle.
We're talking about something. Mm-hmm. Okay, sexy. There's a homoerotic nature to it. Great. I also think for many things, whether Shawn Mendes is gay, I have differing opinions of, like, you're allowed to feel what you feel, think what you think, make jokes, discuss it in the privacy and with your friends, with whatever. That's all fine. And there's a difference when you're putting that joke or information or whatever out there publicly. So agree with you on the, like, have feelings part. And then what about the jokes about it or making comments about that publicly, or, like, that's a different story.
It is a different story, but we're, I think, not 100% in alignment on the idea of when you sign up to be in the public sphere. I think that that's the price of admission, that you have to be over that kind of stuff. We're in agreement that, like, I agree that is a known result of what you're doing. I just think that's a shitty known result, and I don't accept that as just, that's how life is. It doesn't have to be. How would you feel? Okay, what if Shawn Mendes did UFC?
I would love that.
Wait. Then can we call him gay?
No. No, we can't.
All right.
Only if he hooked someone's butt with his finger. Misha Tate, former UFC women's bantamweight champion. I don't know what that means, but that's fine. I didn't care enough. Quote, if you're not comfortable with who you are and yourself, that kind of close contact, it doesn't make any sense to me. Someone's sexual preference has nothing to do with it anyway. If you're busy thinking about that when you're fighting somebody, your mind frame is in the wrong place anyway.
Yeah, I will wholeheartedly agree with that. But, like, there are lots of things that sort of sound sexy or sexual, or even maybe look sexy or sexual, that when you're actually doing it is absolutely not. Like, sex on the beach is stupid. Sand is fucking dumb and gets everywhere and is not fun. But, like, being in a fraternity sounds hot, but the experience is very, very different. Like, if you're standing there, sure, you're shirtless and sweaty and hitting each other, but, like, I doubt very much either person, even if they're actually gay, they're thinking about sex.
Yeah.
Like, there's not.
Well, that's kind of the vibe. Sarah really likes, I think, just from, like, the articles that she's posted on Vice and stuff, I think she really likes MMA, and I think there's it's seeming like the people that are involved in it that like it, there's a negative reaction to jokes about it being gay and stuff, because it's like, this is the part I wanted to talk about. Like, reducing that to just like, oh, that's gay what they're doing, even from gay people, like, does that diminish it? Does that associate something being gay with dismissing it? And is that like a connection to us dismissing gay people and not taking gay people seriously? Like, is there something bad about those gay jokes that is like rooted in these like shitty gay things that we associate? If it's gay, it's not as difficult as, or it's not as brutal, or like, does that,
There's something there, right? Like, I wonder about, like, a UFC fighter is the pinnacle of macho, masculine, violent dudedom. And if there's a not so subtle desire to emasculate that person, and if it's just a backlash to that kind of, I don't know, being at the apex or something, like, there's also a component of like, I think making butt sex jokes about Republicans is hilarious because it bothers them so much. Like,
that's I think where I'm landing, at least for the time being, of I think UFC is particularly homophobic, or at least its audiences. I like got onto this message board that like, it was one of those things that's like, oh, I found that place in the internet that people talk about where it's like, it was just gross and homophobic and horrible and like, like the worst. It was it's.
I mean, the lead dude is Joe Rogan, right? So that should say
Yes.
something about like who's tuning in.
Yes. It is it's also like a weird feeling being on those message boards and being reminded about like, there's some level of privilege that I have of existing, whether it's the city or my friends, or that can like have the ability to hide my whatever as much, like, I don't know. There's a lot of baggage that comes with like looking at that shit and being like, oh God, now I remember how shitty the world is, but also not feeling that every single day like some queer people do. So like, I don't know. That was a very weird moment of like being on that message board. Anyway, what my point was, which I had one sometimes, I think it is an extremely homophobic fandom. No one's out. That's not uncommon in sports, but like, at least on the male side, that people view it as this masculine thing, and it's taking them down a peg. It's like, hey, that thing that you're so cool on and you hate gay people, it's actually kind of gay. Like, it's trying to like, I think there's a point there that is beyond the joke. The point is like, you're not that cool because you're masked. Like, you're not that cool because you think you can beat the shit out of each other. Like, there's something there that's a reaction to the homophobia that they're bringing along with them to that sport.
Yeah. I didn't look it up for this, so I'm working from my very shitty memory. I forget what sport. It might be UFC even, but there's the guy that, you know how they always do the part where like they're facing off and they're talking shit to each other in front of microphones for like, you don't know why. They get right up close to each other, like nose to nose, and I don't know, just sweat on each other. I don't understand that, but it's before the match and it's to like, I don't know. Anyway, there's a dude that like full on stuffs this massive, just donkey sized dick in his bulge, in his whatever trunks that you wear for the sport. I think it's MMA. It might be UFC. Anyway, I'll find it. But it's hilarious because he's poking fun at the fact that like what we are doing is pretty gay, and I'm gonna do like the gayest version of it possible.
Well, I mean, like they take pictures. I think UFC and among others, like boxing or whatever, like do this kind of like, head to head, like their face and like, there's been those memes like you take a picture and it's like UFC. Like those kind of pregame whatever things look like a gay marriage, like a gay wedding ceremony. If you like freeze frame it, there's something I had at men.com scene called Knockdown Fuck Down that I wanted to read the description, at least the first part. Quote, during their pre-fight interview, Malik Delgado surprises the reporters, managers, and especially his opponent, Trent King, when he leans forward and kisses him on the lips, which I think happened in one of those face-to-face. Like, it's like I think one of them like kissed the other guy, and then he like flipped his shit because that was gay, and it's like you were an inch from his lips already. You weren't. There was.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, for sure.
And then takes off his robe to reveal a huge boner tenting his boxer shorts. After Malik delivers a knockdown in the ring, he consoles Trent with his cock in the locker room.
Because I know it'll cheer you up.
If you want to console me, cock is a good way to go. Anyway, yeah. I guess I'll read the last. Dana White, the president of UFC in 2017, became the first head of a major sports league to welcome gay athletes. Which, like, I read that somewhere and was like, "Is that seems?
Yeah,
that seems weird."
Yeah.
So did not verify outside. This is on the Daily Beast. Article called "Is Ultimate Fighting Gay" by Theodore Russell. And anyway, Dana White, the president of UFC, at least back then, said, quote, "Any guy involved in grappling is the furthest thing from homophobic in the world." Okay. So, like, Dana is, like, admitting, like, a guy grappling another dude, like, there's a little gay element you have to be over.
Yeah.
Continuing. I honestly think it would have no impact whatsoever with not only our fighters or our fan base. I disagree.
Yeah, I disagree too.
The guys in UFC, everybody is so cool. It's great sportsmanship. Everybody has respect for each other. Honestly, it wouldn't be a big deal to me, and most of the guys I know in the sport, it wouldn't be a big deal for them either.
I think he's wrong about some of that too.
Totally. And very they're great that Dana did this. In my perfect world, I often feel like on the show, like, I like criticize shit and it's like, but in the real world, I'm like, oh, you know what, you're trying to support, cool,
sure.
Give you credit.
Yeah.
In my perfect world, there's a far better way to do that than like that was kind of, it seemed like maybe an interview that this was not a planned statement, a little bit like, you kind of got to dance, like people dance around gay things or saying things outright because they're like uncomfortable about it, and again, like, the reason I'm trying to point that out because, like, there's a better way, I think, to do this, but also trying to force people into perfection, that's not the right thing. Like, you clunk your way through it to get to acceptance, but, like, gay people belong everywhere. There's a broader statement of, it doesn't matter if the fans or the people, like, wrestling punching the shit out of each other, like, care, because gay people belong everywhere. So, like, it doesn't, even if no one supported it, it's the right thing to do. Like, there's other elements that I wish could be a part of that statement. But yeah.
It's if Kyle ruled the world, everybody, it would be different.
God, we would. Yeah. Do you have something you? Do you have more? Oh, okay.
I was going to do a bit about the the Unified Free Church of Scotland, which is also the UFC.
I almost did. Yeah. Okay, I've never done this before, Mike. I'm going to give you the choice. I have two more things. I have, like, a lot of shit that I like brought and was interested.
One for Patreon, one for the main episode.
I'm going to give you the choice.
Great.
What do you want to talk about now? Either gay porn stars who have been in MMA.
Ooh. Okay.
Or a game.
Oh.
MMA move or sex act.
Great. Yes.
Which one?
Let's play the game now.
Okay.
And we'll talk about the gay porn stars in the Patreon.
Oh God, yeah, the gay. One of them. God.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Boy. Yeah. Okay. Come back.
Oh, right. Well, you picked the other one. Okay. MMA move or sex act?
MMA move or sex act.
Okay. I have a bunch, so I will just pick my favorites.
Okay.
Anaconda choke.
Sex act.
It is an MMA move.
Shit.
A kind of choke hold and arm triangle from the front headlock position is achieved by a competitor trapping the opponent's arm with an underhook.
I mean, aren't all of these sex acts for you?
Yeah, anything could be a sex act if you want it to be, I suppose. Okay. But yeah. Rear naked choke.
Naked choke. That's sex act.
It is an MMA move.
God damn it.
which I will talk a little bit. That is how Dakota Cochrane, one of the MMA fighters that I will tell you more about in the Patreon segment, that is called rear because it's from behind them. It's naked because, unlike other strangulation techniques in jiu-jitsu or judo, this hold does not require the use of a keikogi or training uniform. So naked meaning like you do not have a uniform or a thing on you while you're doing it.
Okay.
Very weird. Reverse mount.
Sex act?
It is an MMA move. Also known as north-south mount, a position in which the fighters' heads are facing opposite directions.
Sure. Yeah. I've seen that porn.
Ground or pound.
Sex act?
MMA.
God damn it.
Fighter takes the opponent down and pounds the opponent.
Okay, that didn't help.
Slick submission.
I don't like this game, Kyle. MMA move.
It is an MMA move.
Great.
Sneaky, fluid moves in a swift effort to bring the fight to the ground.
Sneaky fluid. I hate that. I like my fluids to be confident and in my face, not sneaky.
I like my moves like I like my MMA. Unlike, I don't know. Let's see. Last one, full mount.
MMA move.
That is an MMA move. The joke here is all of these are MMA moves. There's none of these are actual sex acts. Fighter is on his or her back with the opponent on the fighter's chest in the straddle position, making it difficult for the fighter to buck the opponent off. Definitely done that during sex, so don't tell me what it is. Other ones that are definitively still MMA moves: over under position, rear mount, the rubber guard, what?
Rubber guard.
The rubber guard, a guard position in which the bottom fighter, that's a weird label for, you don't know if he's a bottom fighter, brings his or her or their leg up on the top fighter's back and hooks the bottom fighter's leg under the top fighter's arm. God,
what is this, fucking Twister?
The only one that is kind of a sex act is there's one called Superman, which is an MMA move, but that's a sex thing. There's submission hold, submission wrestling, slick submission, lots of submission.
Oh, God. You all right?
Yeah, it was just it's one of those things where you're we just had this intense conversation about is it okay to joke and what's the meaning of it? And it's
yes,
come on, MMA. Well, it's a little bit on them too. If those are your moves, what am I gonna do with rear mount? What do you want me to do? I don't know. I can't not. What do you?
Yeah,
it's on them a little bit.
Yeah,
a lot, mostly. I don't know. Yeah. What else about UFC? Here's what I will also grant the kind of detractors from making gay jokes. It's not an original joke. It's definitely one of those that I lean into and do because it's just so easy and people still kind of think it's funny, but it is not a novel joke. So I will grant them that as a if you're looking for comedy, that's a very easy basic thing that yeah.
I mean, sometimes the obvious thing is the thing you should say.
That's true. But not necessarily in comedy. But sometimes yes, in comedy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who am I? A writer?
Yeah, you are.
I try.
Did we do it?
Yeah, I think we did.
Maybe we still have the porn stars to talk about. But
boy, do we still have the porn stars to talk about.
Should we take a break?
Let's take a break.
Don't break any bones.
Punch break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back. We beat the shit out of each other.
I know this is never going to heal.
And I didn't even come. We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest, but first, our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on all social media at Gayish Podcast, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Join us on Discord or the Facebook group.
Yeah, our hotline. You can send us... Oh, wait, hold on.
What?
This happened just last week, so I want to be clear. There is a Facebook page, and then there's a Facebook group. anybody can follow the Facebook page. We post like our episodes there and stuff like that. But there's a Facebook group.
There's a private group.
You have to ask to belong to, and it's a private group, so nobody can see that you've joined it. So there's two things. There's two things to do on Facebook. You should do both of them.
Yeah. It's called the Gayish community, is the private group.
Yep. Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rate supply. And our email, we have one, and it's where you can deliver. It's like letters, but like they're electronic. And you can just do it, like type them. It's gayishpodcast@gmail.com. And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington 98109. Let's see. First,
4 R's.
4 R's. Rate, review, subscribe, and recommend, you fuckers.
You can rate on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Those stars help make us look better to prospective people trying to find us.
Yeah.
We always hover around like a 4 point something. I think we're like
4.7 this morning.
The last I looked at it was like 4.3. So.
See?
4.7. All right.
Keep us going. Keep fighting that good fight, everybody.
Like a UFC championship.
Yeah, submission hold Spotify until we get the rating we want. Yeah, please. It really does help us out. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Rating, reviewing, subscribing, and recommending.
And so many of our listeners are just because someone said, like, listen to this. And so we very much appreciate anyone who's recommended it.
Yeah. Gayest and Straightest?
Yeah. I'll go.
Okay, do it.
I will. My straightest is I bought a rug for the entryway of my place, mostly because my dog had scratched at the front door because he, like me, is anxious, and for like wet shoes. Well, anyway, but it, like my door kept like moving it out of the way or not, so I just got black tape, black electric tape, and taped it down. Just. I don't know. It kind of blends in because the around it is black, so I think it blends in and looks okay. But I just taped my thing down. That doesn't feel like the decorganizing recommendation of a super gay homeowner.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it could have been duct tape to extra.
That's true. That's true. I at least blended it with the okay. My gayest is we went out the other night to gay bars, which
we did.
Things like
we didn't even talk about the porn that we watched.
Oh, I was like, what?
Like,
right.
Like dudes wrestling each other in a locker room.
Yeah, but there was like, but there was like, it was like non-penetrative. It was just like naked dudes fighting kind of stuff. Yeah, we could have, they were like, I mean, faking it, but it was like, this black and white thing. All of a sudden someone started like to pretend to like beat the shit out of him in a prison. I was like, how did they know I'm into this? Like, this is so weirdly tailored to me. At the end of the night, I was, you left and I was standing there and like this woman was standing there and I was like, oh, I like your buns. Like, cause I was like kind of drunk and she was just standing there waiting for her Uber and she had these like pinkle buns and like we started talking and she was talking about how like she had a rough time and her boyfriend cheated on her. So she wanted to come out to the gay bars. And I got to be like this moment of like being the supportive gay dude. Like, no, you're worth more than that. You do like, he doesn't deserve you. I know it's hard, but it's the right thing to do. And then as her Uber got there, she was like, yeah, it's okay. I stabbed him.
Oh no.
And she starts walking away and I don't know why, like I wanted to like figure out if there was another, I don't know why, I just said with what, and she went a knife and got in her Uber. And I was just like, there's no one else here. I'm just like, I wanted to be like,
yeah, oh my god, that's crazy. I love it.
Okay. So that was fun.
That was a weird night. We also met that person who's like not gay, but like questioning. And
I don't think he was. I think he was not questioning and just got hit on by gay dudes at a
gay bar.
But I think it, like in an inappropriate way that like got his ass touched or something was like came to us for safety. That was okay. That like you left. He went inside to like pay his bill or something, and I was like, that's why I was standing there. I was like waiting for. I was invested in this, like making sure this dude felt safe. Like he went inside, and it was like minutes later, and he didn't come out. And I was like, and then talked to this girl who's, I guess, stabbed her.
Great. Yeah.
Anyway, what about you?
The gayest thing about me this week is I started watching The Expanse, and lots of people have said you should watch The Expanse, and it's on Amazon and it's sci-fi, and I'm really, really into it. But you motherfuckers should have told me how goddamn hot Boyfriend is on The Expanse.
Boyfriend is?
Stephen Straight is his name. And there's nothing straight about him in my mind. In my fantasies, that guy, sweet fucking Jesus, is hot as fuck. And so now I'm watching the whole show, all 6 seasons.
Sure.
It's also really good, and I enjoy it. But like the first episode, he's like, there's a shirtless scene in I'm like, done watching it.
God.
The straightest thing about me this week is maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I have lost so much money in the stock market the last couple of weeks. And like, I think that like it's an extreme position of privilege to have money in the market at all, but it is also very straight. I think
that sentence was very straight. Yes, no, 100%.
And I'm part of the HODL crew or whatever. Like I'm not like selling or anything.
You're part of the what crew?
HODL, HODL. That's what all of the cryptocurrency people say, and they it's a misspelling of hold, because like even though the market fluctuates, like hang on to it. It's straight guy horse shit. Anyway, that's my straightest this week. And we have a listener's Gayest with Straightest comes to us from our Gayish community page.
Not page. Facebook group.
Facebook group. Facebook.com/groups/Gayish podcast. Jeff Anderson Jones says, Straightest, it's a sports weekend this weekend. I had no idea. The PBA, Pro Bowling, and Australian Open tennis. And I've been glued to the TV all weekend. Just a total sports nerd for the nerdy sports.
Do those count as sports?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Gayest, recommending to my straight friend that he should start selling jock straps because he just started a female lingerie line in his clothing business, and having to explain that I didn't mean white athletic supporters who put a cup inside, and him liking the idea, and he says he's going to start a pride wear line now.
Oh, is this going to be like the Japanese MMA that's pride that has nothing to do with gay shit? Or Rihanna recently started releasing men's lingerie, so he's going to have to go up against Rihanna's lingerie line.
I mean...
Don't we all?
I don't know. So that is it. Thank you to MMA fighters everywhere, especially Bryson on Sean Cody.
God, thank you, Bryson.
Yeah. Great.
Do we have to keep doing stuff?
We need to finish so we can finish.
Beat me up, Bryson. I also thank you to the following Super Cat Bridgers: Josh Copeland, Forrest Nail, Patrick Martin, Anonymous, James Sparrow, Explosive Lasagna, Christopher Farrell, Jamie Pugh, Kevin Henderson, Tipsy McStumbles, Donald Linsky, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A.E. Coleman, Chris Cagitatorian, Jerome York, and Cian and Javi.
Yeah. Woo. Thank you so much. Well, that is it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cagitatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Till next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. Beat off someone.
Choke him out.
I have to pee again.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
That venti iced coffee
Ran right through you.
I had instead of, even though it's 43 degrees.
Gay.
Not going to be my gayest because I actually have a better one, but
great.